Hello and welcome back to Processing the Process, where we capture and discuss the technical, psychological, and contextual dynamics that shape the process of creating a work of art. Week by week, moment by moment, we're following Allie K. Dacres, teacher, actor, director, and producer, as she shapes the development of her innovative middle school drama club and guides her students' idiosyncratic artistic journeys. Today, we'll be focusing on both the May 1st Showcase Scene workshop, which happened to last until 5 p.m., and also the May 6th After School Showcase Scene workshop. Got that all out. So starting with, of course, in order, May 1st. I wanted to say that as we discussed in the last videocast, Allie is struggling to navigate challenging dynamics that are leading her to really reevaluate fundamental philosophies and approaches. And we noted several key circumstances. One, that sporadic attendance is preventing productive rehearsals. Two, group cohesion is relatively weak. And three, some of the kids are having difficulty with focus, initiative, and time management. But despite Allie's frustration and discomfort, she feels strongly about resisting mandates. You may remember we've begun to bring this up. And she really reminds herself of the environment she has worked so hard to cultivate, which is student-centric, welcoming to kids with all kinds of abilities, needs, and social skills, and free of pressure and prescriptions. So understandably, she really wants to preserve the very special way of operating that she has facilitated. Allie is also inclined, particularly in our discussions, Allie, you've brought this out to me, to take a step back and allow the kids to figure out on their own what is needed, how they're going to accomplish what they need to do, and how they're going to figure out to come together as a cohesive ensemble. Now, the good news is that Allie may have a total of 5 high school mentors who will assume leadership positions in this process. So let's see how Allie laid the groundwork for this May 1st session in light of all that we just discussed. Well, not surprisingly, Allie dove right in and initiated a serious and what I call now or never type of discussion. Yeah. So Allie, can you share with us the message that you were trying to get across and how you actually delivered it?
Yeah. Well, we were circled up. We led our warm-up. It was a little better than the previous warm-up that we've discussed, which was not great.
Right.
So it was a little bit better, but in the sense of them actually getting work done, that's the area that we needed to discuss. Right. And I told them, I said, you guys are not gelling. You're still separate in a way. And there's just, and I know like every year it's different, and every year the dynamics are going to change and little groups might form. No cliques in essence, though. I can be happy to report that no one is like in groups and being nasty to each other. But this year it did shake out a little more separately, where the scenes were more isolated rather than cross groupings and stuff like that. And that's okay, that happens. But at the same time, the showcase as a whole is going to be coming together, and now is the time to make that happen, or else it's not going to happen if they continue to move forward in this kind of my corner, your corner sort of way. Again, no animosity there, but just like, also these walls were up, you know, these thin walls of like, oh, you're in that scene, oh, okay. And I was like, no, you are also in that scene. Do you not remember agreeing that you're in that scene too? Like, we gotta start getting all these smaller roles that might be what's crossing over. Guess what? You have to actually start working together now, make that happen. So in order to get the mindset there, I really had to drive home that we have 12 rehearsals left, which is not very many. It might be like a month, but really you're going to see each other 12 times. We know that not everybody's going to be at all of those rehearsals based on past practice and based on conflicts that I have in my book already that I've heard from parents that are unavoidable. You know, aside from the mandatory tech dress that everybody I expect to be there and everybody's been aware of. Leading up to that point, it might very well be this choppiness. So when we are together, we've all got to be on point. We talked about the various benchmarks that exist within the creation of what we're doing and along the roadmap of a production process. And I basically said, this is where you should be. You're not anywhere near that. Oh. You're just not.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, they really were very far behind. I started to kind of, you know, they should be cast and blocked and moving through and done with that. And at this point, for May specifically, as we lead, knowing we only have this limited time left before Tech Week starts, that's when we dig our heels in and get our hands really dirty with the tactics, objectives, you know, obstacles, really building character, relationships, all of these things. We should be doing not just, oh, what's across, you know, where am I standing? No. That's like, if you see the arc of the club itself, like we started there and then we kicked it up a notch. Well, now that's where we should be. We should be using the skills that we've been kicked up into that higher level of working. And there, they really were still just trying to kind of, you know, figure out where they were standing in their scenes, if their scenes were even completed.
Exactly.
So this is very unusual for me. I don't... this is new. This is unsettling. Is the beginning feelings that I have on that one. So, and you mentioned, you know, I try to keep this pressure-free environment. It's not that I'm not holding them accountable. There is a strong sense of responsibility and accountability that I work to instill in them, but it's that pressure that is coming from a negative energy place that I try to avoid, because that can, depending on the kid, actually shut down a group rather than inspire or promote, you know, movement forward. But at this point, you know, I also had to recognize that heat and pressure cause change. Like, we know this. That is a fundamental scientific fact. And maybe they needed to feel a little bit of that heat, a little bit of that pressure. So I really did kind of lay into the time that we have left, jumping on board with a lot to do in a little amount of time. And they really got to kick it up a notch, you know. And to show them how serious I was, I literally got on my hands and knees and I just was like, please. Like, for the love of all that is good in every sense of the word, I am so here for you, but I cannot do this for you. Use your time that I give you outside of rehearsal. Use your own time outside of rehearsal. These are the things you should be doing, and these are all the ways that the group is here to help you, that I am here to help you, that the mentors are here to help you with, but we cannot do it for you. This is up to you. And it definitely did get their attention, being on my knees, begging. And I did that. I mean, I also did it to, I don't want to just be an adult yelling at them. I want them to know that, like, I'm part of this. We're all in this. You know what I mean? Some people might ask me, like, oh, are you nervous they're going to produce some bad work? Well, no. I mean, the work that they're going to produce is the work they're going to produce. It's reflective of who they are and what they've been doing, and I stand by whatever it is they produce. I want them to stand by what they produce, and that's kind of what I said. I said, I want you to be proud and stand up for your work. I don't want you to feel like you're not prepared and ready, as we talked about, and confident, and you're like, oh no, people are going to see it. No, we have to get it to a point where you want people to see it, and this is how we do that. So that was my tactic. We know what my objective is.
Right.
And clearly there are obstacles. But
there it is. In life,
yes,
as in theater, and theater as in
I had
life.
to lay it out in a dramatic fashion. So,
well, lo and behold, and perhaps not surprisingly after we hear the lengths Allie went to really drive the message home, most groups had a productive session.
They did. Yes.
So, Allie, can you tell us what you think the different scene groups were able to accomplish following this kind of discussion?
Yeah. In general, the energetic vibe was positive and motivated, which was great. There was a little bit of fear in the eyes of some of my kids, and that's not a bad thing. It was mostly from the kids. There was two kinds of fear. We had the fear of kids who know exactly what we need to do, and they're like, oh gosh, I know we're not where we are. And then we have the kids that are like shell-shocked, like, wait, what are we doing? That's what we're doing? You know, it's like these two different, kinds of look in the eye. But it did produce positivity and productivity amongst the group. Right. One of the kids asked if we were going to do the opening scene. I said, we need all the other scenes to do the opening scene around. I said, I can, I think I might have said this last week, I can very easily write I could give a little speech, I could write something for each of you to say, you can write a little sentence that each of you will say. That's not our big problem. So we didn't do it. If we get everything else done, that we can actually wrap up in a bow and then have an opening scene that reflects, in the way that they want to, which to have like the mock opening of the club, have a mock pitch meeting that kind of intros what they're going to see as we then see the scenes come alive that they've talked about. That'd be amazing. Hopefully we'll get there. But we're not there yet. Instead, let's work on the meet itself.
Absolutely.
So Hunger Games, great job. Most of those kids, I think we've discussed, are veterans. Those are the ones that they know what they need to do. It's just more of a time constraint for them as they learn to balance all of the opportunities that they have new and available to them this year, but of course that adds complications in their life that they need to manage. But they were able to choreograph the first battle scene, which is huge. That's actually a 14 kid all crossing the stage, sequencing. Wow. It's timed. There's moves that have to be understood. There's safety involved, safety issues. They did a great job in getting at least the blueprint, and in some circumstances, some things are very much set in stone because some of the other kids that I had worked with previously did have more of those skills intact, and so they were able to, kind of help the others learn more quickly in that way. My mentors, I had a couple of high school mentors that really handled that for me. Like literally, they were in another place, and relatively nearby, but they were outside, which was nice too. It was nice weather. Whenever we have fresh air, I get them out there. So we did our warm-up outside because it just does wonders. Even that 10, 15 minutes does wonders for the brain and for the body,
Sure.
So the girls were outside with the kids to do that. Huge help because that left me free to do to rove around and work with those smaller groups that need some more help. And then besides getting the larger scene block, they were then able to branch out into the smaller dialogue scenes and work on those and block those. Right. And they're doing really well with that. So they feel a lot better. I feel a lot better because it's good work. They really did dig their heels in with the script, and they were thoughtful about it. And I would hate for that to be sacrificed or something, or not be close to what they see in their minds. So we're on our way, which is fantastic. The game show girls, the girls that often need to leave early, which is ending soon, so I hear, as far as I know. That conflict will be wrapping up very shortly. I'm excited about that. Yeah. They finally gave me the working script, which was actually due last week, and they finally got it to me, so I can actually see what it is that they're doing beyond just the little moments here and there that I've worked with them. If they physically don't digitally share it with me, I can't really examine it and really look through it. I know what their scene is, but really the details of how it flows needs to be addressed. And it did need, it had issues, and it did need certain things that needed to be addressed. They do need more cast members, and they had brought in a couple of people, and today those couple of people were not there. And I have yet to really understand why, because neither of them contacted me or the parents, which it happens. I don't know. It happens. Like I said, these two girls were new. Maybe they didn't fully understand the level at which they need to kind of be mindful of their commitment to the program at this stage. So we'll see. So I did talk to the girls that were there about constructing a plan B.
Right.
How do you restructure? Who's going to play what? Changing the lines. Really, it'd be parsing out, just shifting lines around to, spread between 2 instead of 4 people. Not a problem. So I said, be mindful that might happen. Don't be surprised, and be flexible when it does, if it does.
Exactly.
You can't be attached to this frame of mind of what you think might happen. Because you might actually discover it will be cleaner, more cohesive. Like,
point.
who knows? When you can like limit how many minds have to come together. Quite frankly, that's sort of what that is. So hopefully we'll see what happens with that one. Conceptually it's interesting, but practically we'll see if it actually happens. I'm gonna so open mic. They're doing really well. Those are the 3 boys that were concerned about being able to participate and wanted something smaller that they could kind of bite into. And they're having so much fun. Like, they're so silly.
Oh, how great to see,
I know.
I'm sure.
And they're not silly like being silly, not funny. Like, they're just so being themselves and having fun and trying out things and, just kind of letting themselves just extend in a shared kind of space with one another, and that's really nice to see, and it's going to be really fun. So they worked, what I had prompted them and coached them on this day was really cultivating the dynamics between the characters. Because with something like what they're doing, which is like a comedy duo and like a boom, that kind of a thing, really
drums up.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly. Timing really matters. You don't want to lag. So maybe you do, but it's all very timed, and really, it's that relation and that type of storytelling or whatever you're gonna. It's really about the relationship there. You're laughing at how the people are working together, even more so potentially than what they're saying. That's if you see real good comedy duos, it's like that, what they're creating, the energy between them.
Their chemistry.
Yes, and it's a beautiful thing that they're creating. Out there a little bit, but I'm good with that. Like you take things way out there because then you rein into where, to the level that kind of makes sense. And we create levels then, which makes things more interesting. We have the foiled grandma scene, which is great. It's going really well. They finalized their first draft, which means that we have something to work with now. I was really excited that this idea started with me hoping to give a younger student a more positive experience with her creativity and working with, not spinning the wheel so much, and it's really turning into a nice partnership. And and the scene has stretched a little beyond just the 2 of them. They've added a couple more characters to help continue to tell the story, and they have they're just about done casting that and getting others on board. So I'm excited to see how that shakes out. And what I like about it too is that it's very meaningful, in particular to the main writer.
Sure.
And then for the other younger girl, it's very validating for her. Her ideas are really coming forth. They don't necessarily have to be overshadowed per se or mixed up, or she doesn't have to concede what she really wants to help somebody else out, which is a beautiful thing that she did, but she's also now having this as a vehicle to validate herself rather than just working to validate somebody else. And I think that that's really nice for her.
Right.
Let's see. The audition scene, which Annie get that part? I'm not sure. We're still... I mean, we literally may not have titles for these until it's like, kids, I'm making the program. What's your scene called? Like, that's what happens sometimes. We don't know. They have finalized their script, which we had many revisions on. Third version, I think, we're up to now.
I think so.
Yeah, but that's okay. It's all right because everybody seems to know what's going on. And I'm all right with that. Like, as long as you, know what's happening rather than you're having no idea and it's a loose script and the thing is intact. Everybody was like, oh yeah, no, we changed it to that. And I can ask almost anybody and they'll all tell me the same thing. And I'm like,
oh, good.
Okay, good. Okay. I trust you girls. Good. And they've started their blocking, which is great.
Yay.
Yeah. And this one is good. It's a great vehicle too because They don't all have to be in the same room at the same time yet, as long as they all come in prepared with their little segments, their little audition piece that they're doing.
Yes.
And this group, and there's guys and girls, I'm confident that they're going to really be able to just tie that together, because the individual groups that I've worked with within the scene all know what they're doing, and they're all developing. Super. And they're on a really good path there, which is great. So we have come to dead memes. Saving the best for last. Saving the most interesting for last, that's for sure. The script itself, like the physical script that I had shared, that was shared with me, was kind of all over the place, which we might have previously discussed. I couldn't make sense of it. I mean, I've read a lot of wacky, completely, unintact pieces over the years, and I usually can sew them together in my mind and fill in the gaps. This one was really hard, and I think a lot of that might have to do with the cultural element of the memes that we've discussed are maybe not something, certainly not necessarily something that I pay too much attention to, just in my own life. Some of them are just, I don't know, really stupid, quite frankly. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And I don't, but I'm learning that for some of these, that's the point. And I'm like, okay. But that is the point. And that's why they're dead memes, because they're not really relevant. They're not really funny, or they were funny for a time, and the joke is making fun of the fact that people thought this was funny, but in fact they're not. And it's all this like bizarre sort of phenomenon that is among this age group.
Right.
And I mean, the compilations and things I was watching, like, it was kids, it was adults and whatnot, but the entertainment factor, I think the people really paying attention to these are the kids in this age group especially. So I had to kind of figure out what was happening. The structure itself of the actual written script, I had to tweak and make sense and put it in more of a dramatic format, which I did a little. I did, like, I would say half of, to model it, and then they can then finish the other half based on my modeling, because I want them to understand structure, obviously.
And were you following the format that you had reviewed with them prior to the process? Kind of going back over the narrative arc?
Yeah. And I mean, we're talking like literally like how it was typed. Like, they know, like, you have somebody's name and a dash and words, but it was just like kind of grammatically a little bit. Some of it was really the choices that I had to sit down with the group to be like, what exactly is this? I think some things were left blank because they weren't sure who was going to say things. So it'd be just like a dash for who might be speaking this part. So they left a lot out because they didn't have that lead writer with them at the time that most of the group was there to try and continue and move forward. This was the group that stalled a lot because they didn't know what to do without the person whom they felt put so much time and effort into the writing process, which she did, but then she wasn't there for any clarifications. So they stalled out.
Right.
And a lot of the questions that I had, the other group members had the same questions. So we were able to kind of iron that out a little bit, but it was really challenging. We really couldn't clarify everything. We still really need to work with that lead writer.
Yeah.
So I tried to do some blocking with what we can. I tried to impress upon them, you can move forward without her. It's okay. Things can change, but we need a blueprint. We need something of what we can do. Even if you're just up and playing as your characters, doing some improvs, imagining what the scene might look like in terms of, like, where are the various set pieces, how are we going to move through it. It was challenging for them. They really couldn't do it. It's not something I don't think they will ever be able to not do. They'll eventually be able to do it, but they really didn't feel comfortable embracing moving forward. And this plays into a little bit what we had talked about, where, like, there's that, I don't know if it's a motivation thing or maybe afraid to move forward because they're not sure if they're right or not. I'm not really sure, but that was very concerning. It was very concerning. We need this lead writer back. I think she's okay. I think she went home that day with strep or something. It's school. Things happen. It was just bad timing because I felt like I was ready to go. We have a script. It's as formatted as I can make it. We can fill in some of the holes, literally write it in, and then they can go on the computer and change it and make it strong. And I really felt we were going to come out of this day a lot more clear. And we didn't get that. So we're going to see where this one ends up.
Well, at this point, will you be allocating your personal resources toward those scenes that you feel need the most help and support? I mean, I think what actually I'm trying to
triage
ask perhaps is I mean, do you, in your mind, make a determination of where your intervention will pay dividends and where you suspect it will not? And if you think it won't, how do you then navigate that with the kids?
At this stage, on this date, this day, I'm not ready to sacrifice anything. I'm still giving everything that I can to model that we don't give up yet because we have the time. You know what I mean? Maybe ideas change, maybe, elements shift and expectations might be different. But, we are a month out. Yes, I know it's you can look the other way too. You know what I mean? You do have all this time to make it right if you want it to be made right. You know what I mean? So if it were, third day of tech and they don't have it together, that's a different story. If it's more deeper in when everything else really does have to, then that's when you shift the focus and you say, all right, guys, we're liquidating your scene. Where else can we put you? But we're not there yet.
Okay.
I'm not. The types of problems that we're having really have to do with communication, motivation, intention, building a maturity about the work, because they literally just might not feel confident with what they know. They may not realize they know more than they do. And because we haven't had the opportunity to truly clarify with that lead writer, which it will come, the day will come. Whew, it will happen. Some point in the school day will make it work. So we're not at a point yet because we don't have all the information. This could totally pan out and iron out and be fine. And I believe that can happen.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at with that at the moment.
Now, Allie, you've candidly shared with us that you have worked over the years and gotten better at managing your anxiety, the anxiety that perhaps inevitably arises year after year, but you're always careful to point out that yes, you're managing it better, but it's still present.
Yeah.
And now that you're entering the final phase of the season, I would think it's increasingly difficult to manage because it's really escalating.
Yeah.
So what is it for those of us who've not been through this theatrical process, especially, what about the responsibilities and dynamics of this period of time makes it particularly challenging for you?
Well, we're at that point where various administrative responsibilities come into play, and they're simple things. Putting together my ads that will be sent out to the community. Really finalizing, making sure I have all of my crew stuff in place if there's other adults or high schoolers helping, and making sure all of that kind of stuff is in place. But what that all means is that we're preparing to actually show this to the public. It's no longer just something that we're working with and creating and experimenting with and all of that. So we're literally going from this nurturing little kind of we're all working together, we're gonna make something beautiful and we're all putting our love into this thing, into okay, we're gonna we're exposing this? Like, oh my gosh. So that's really what it is. It's definitely, it feels like there's an actual like literal barrier right here, right in front of me. And I have to physically push through it to embrace this next stage. It happens every year, that feeling of like, okay, like maybe I could just put off just a couple more days, because it's comfortable to like not hang that sign yet. So that's kind of funny because so many artists are like, I can't wait to show the public, but I think a lot of artists definitely, like, there's a threshold there that you're safe on one side of it and you're vulnerable on the other. Do you know what I mean?
Beautifully put.
Yeah,
yes.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm at that threshold where I'm about to step over into the realm of vulnerability, like true, honest vulnerability. What will the public think? Will they judge me? Will they see the kids and say, oh my gosh? Or will they see the kids and say, wow? Whichever direction it goes, it's a judgment on my work and the work that I've been doing and all these hours and days and thoughts and worries and time that I've spent with the kids. And it is really quite tangible. And really all I can do is as we've been saying, the only way to quell that, and it's not that it's eliminating that, it's just like a security blanket, is to just remember that no matter what happens, I did all that I could to provide this program for them. And I have to believe in them, and I have to trust them, and I'm finding myself struggling because they're behind more so than the past. Right. I really genuinely am like, what's going to happen this year? Something's going to happen, and I'll be proud of them, and it's going to not be anything that I don't think, I think they'll all be proud of it, but it's still terrifying a little bit, it's super scary to put all that out there in front of everybody. So
I think, to your point about other artists, that this is a very common and widely shared experience, and it's almost, I don't know if you call it ironic or a conundrum, that you start out as an artist in your process knowing from the beginning that you are working on and toward work that at some point you intend to share with others. But I think as the process develops, I don't know if it was you, Allie, who came up with this word that you kind of become ensconced in a cocoon of sorts. A bubble, I think, is what you used. And there's something very comfortable about that, very seductive about that. And even though you've always known that sharing it with the public is, one of the last points on the path, this just feels really good, and you don't have to. Like,
showtime is like the other side of a mountain that you're totally, you're like floating in the lagoon, like hanging out, whatever, and like, all right, it's on totally like the other side of the mountain and like the other half of the world when you begin.
It's very interesting, and then the other process in real-time artist Jonathan Riddell has spoken about this before and experiences something very, very similar. And so it'll be interesting when you are on the other side to reflect back to that experience. But we won't get ahead of ourselves too much yet, because we have to go to the May 6th after school showcase scene workshop. Whew, got that out again. And there were fewer numbers, but that was expected. And but still, 16 kids attended. Is still a nice number. So, once again, can you share with us some highlights of each of the scenes, especially where things perhaps might have changed since the post-discussion session?
Yeah. Okay, opening scene. Still didn't do it as a group, but the girls who had thought about it added some ideas. So when that time comes, they're going to be very prepared to lead that discussion, which I'm looking forward to that. Like, really looking forward to that. The audition scene, and you get that part, working title. Only 2 girls were there, but they were very productive. They worked out tech needs and costumes and props and things like that. All of this has to get done. So they added the lists, they compiled lists and did some nice thoughtful thinking and design there. The game show, hallelujah, we started blocking. Everybody was there. I'm going to need to assist them in creating a little bit more, really, their characterizations are interesting, but they're not creating the characters, It's like they have these awesome, like, robot characters, and you can do so much with that. So I'm going to be meeting with them separately to just kind of do, like, a fun, like, exploration, characterization, like, what can we do, and what are the different ways we can kind of, imagine these individuals, and how can we play a little bit. So I'm going to do, like, a play workshop with them for characterization, so they can bring some of that back into the scene, make some decisions, and liven it up a little bit. We're going to see, though, if they can fully cast. Like I said, this was a smaller number. They said they had everybody. They said that they talked to some people, not outside of the group, but within the group, like just outside of club. And they said, oh, yeah, no, so-and-so's going to do this, and so-and-so's going to do that. I'm like, okay, I'll believe it when I see it, with love. But I'll believe it when I see it. Still have something in that back pocket. Be aware that you might need to be modifying it, but it shouldn't be too difficult to modify, because at that point you'll know what's happening, and it's just going to be able to shift around. So we'll see.
Okay.
So that shouldn't be too terrible. I mean, it won't be terrible. You know what I mean? The process of redistributing.
Too difficult.
So, okay. Hunger Games, only 2 girls attended, but again, I expect that on this day. So they also worked on design needs, and there are a lot for that scene. So they're underway with that, which is great. Some big decisions have to be made. A lot of creative staging, like when the volcano goes off, like,
the volcano again.
So they sort of brainstorm different ways to kind of make that happen. Maybe it's lighting, maybe it's implied, maybe they're actually going to have physical things kind of rolling around on the stage. Who knows? They brainstormed a lot, which I thought was really great, because that's what we want. We want to, like, start delving into the problem-solving realm of this, because that really is, design is very problem-solving based, as we discussed earlier. Right. We have a big problem with that scene, though. They reported to me. They need a PETA, which is a prominent male character, if you're familiar with the Hunger Games. And they kind of just assumed that one of the members was going to do it. He'd be so great for it. He's been working with them on other things like before, strong skills, all of this. And he expressed that he feels a little overwhelmed with taking that on.
Right.
So at the moment, he's a no. He doesn't want to do it, mainly because he doesn't want to commit to something that he can't bring everything of himself to.
Right.
The problem is at the moment, right now, we don't have anybody to play the role. That would be who the other people in the scene would really love. Is this a major problem? I mean, in terms of the ideal picture that they have in mind, it's not going to be exactly what they had hoped, but there are other ways to handle this, by all means. We do have a former member who is just not participating this year. If he's interested, it's a fun role I feel like he would enjoy. So I said to the kids, if you want to hit him up and talk to him and see what he's thinking, if he wants to just come in, learn the part, whatever. And if that's not going to work, that's okay too, because we can totally have just another cast member, boy, girl, whatever. If a girl is playing the role, that's totally fine too. Throw a hat on her, it's fine. Happens all the time. Gender really, and honestly, within our group, gender is not an issue at all. I mean, that whole idea, I'm you know, you do you kind of a thing, you know?
Right.
So, and it, I mean, you know, if Shakespeare and the Greeks can do it, so can we. So it's totally fine. So we'll see how that shakes out. I really hope that the girls are able to solve this problem. I'm sure that they will. Might not be what they had originally hoped, but it's still going to work out really well with who's working on it. It's going to be a good scene. And the last scene that we were able to work on was Dead Memes. Guess who is there? Our lead writer.
Wow.
Yeah. Yay. So we looked at the scene. You know, I brought all paper copies. Like, we all had one. We all were able to be like, what is this? Yes. Yeah. She explained what was going on with it. It became a little bit clearer. But as we found clarification, some very strong creative differences came out between her and the other members in the scene. The lead writer, she has, which is great, but she has this grand vision that the kids were very confused by a little bit. She had to kind of tone it down, not the vision of what she hopes the outcome will be, but just in terms of like how she had to like choose her words very carefully. She had to describe things differently multiple times, which honestly is a good thing because it stretches her to work on effective communication. Right. And the other members in the scene, you know, that stretched them to try and see things from different perspectives, which was really great. The main creative difference that came into play was what she thought, what her vision was, which was that there's like most of the scene that she had written was actually to a song. What I had thought when she said she was going to put a song in there was like a little blurb to music to intro an idea or move through, or that she was going to sing the whole thing and there was going to be like a dance behind her, which is great. If everybody's on board, that's awesome. What she actually envisioned was like she was going to sing a part and then all of the different boys were going to sing different lines of the song, and they were like, nope. We don't want to do that. We don't want to sing this sassy song and dance in the way that you're envisioning. We'll do this and that, a different kind of scene. Like, we all thought, the boys were like, we thought, that this was going to be, just a regular dialogue scene to explore this idea of memes that whether they're funny anymore or not. And it was like there was some conflict there. We had to really kind of practice our listening skills and practice, how do we work with that criticism without being destructive, want to be constructive. And I will say that the lead writer was very flexible, which I appreciated. I think she's seasoned elsewhere, like she's worked on stage in other places, other realms. So I think she's able to kind of understand, okay, yes, obviously you can't make, in the context that we're in, we're all just here, we're here because we want to be here. We're not going to force everybody to do something that we don't want to do, because what's the outcome going to be? You will not have the heart behind it, and it will be evident, and it will bring the scene down. Right. So I was really pleased that she was so flexible. So they did compromise. The opening that initially introduces the whole concept will be sung as sassy as she wants it to be by her. With the music she envisions, the whole thing, all of that. And then the rest of the song, we're going to work as a group to tweak the lines so that they're just more dialogue based, and it will flow. We tested it out. It will flow like conversation in a scene, which is fantastic. So we're really going to be able to, I think, hopefully build something with this. They're going to have to scramble a little bit. To make it happen. We're going to have to kind of find time, carve it out, which we will. But the fact that they found a compromise with a group that has struggled with communication and flexibility and clarity, I'm really happy. And so are they. Everybody in the group now is like, okay, I think everybody's relieved. And everybody feels more ready to move forward and excited to move forward. So that was huge.
That was a big breakthrough for them.
Whew. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it seems that, in conclusion, since getting down on your knee with your hands in prayer, that at least most of the kids really did start to kick it up a notch. And it sounds like, and you tell me if you think I'm on target, that everything's looking a little bit more promising than it had prior to that time.
Yes.
Oh,
Looking
great.
a little better. So I'm much happier, and I can relax a little bit more for now. You know, goes in its
Hey,
waves.
we'll take right.
Oh, I will
those
take
moments,
any of
right?
those moments where the storm is quiet. I will take them.
Well, we will continue to, I was going to say, slog through the process.
Sometimes.
But to, moment to moment with Allie as the scenes develop further and the showcase, one way or another, does come together.
It's going to happen.
And we'll continue, Allie, to check in with you with regard to your internal landscape and how it's impacting you and how you in turn are responding to the triggers, so to speak, that perhaps are in general inevitable, even though in their details, I guess it's specific to each particular year. So thank you for, again, being with us as we go through the process, and we look forward to sharing next steps with you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good night.